Sometimes we meet people that we know have got something special about them. My sister married someone like that. His name is John. John's a great guy, down to earth, fun-loving. They live in Switzerland. He loves the outdoor life, running marathons like me, cross-country skiing. Very much from a social perspective, not a serious athlete. Here's a few pictures of John over the last few years. In April 2013, we ran the Zurich Marathon together. I remember it well because it was freezing cold. I was wearing running tights, picture the scene, 2 running vests, and I broke my 4-hour target by 1 minute. But John cruised home in 3 hours 40. It was a memorable occasion. But then, 1 year later, May 2014, last year, we got some devastating news. John had contracted Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a debilitating disease that attacks the motor neuron system. 10% of cases result in death. Tetraplegia is very common. And over the next few days, John deteriorated very, very fast, to the point within a week he was completely immobile, bedbound, couldn't talk. Here's a picture of him at that time. But that was when John's uniqueness really shone through. When most of us would have been terrified, depressed, frustrated, what the future holds. John's got 2 wonderful young daughters. The only way John could communicate at that time was through his Facebook blog, through lying in the bed. And that was when I was amazed by his positive attitude in terms of his daily blog to friends and family. Most of us would have been focused just on survival, maybe to talk again, or even to walk again. John wasn't satisfied with any of that, not even just to run again. John had a burning desire to run a marathon again. The doctors told us it was impossible for him ever to run a marathon again. They warned us to manage his expectations. But over the next few weeks, John showed absolutely amazing fortitude. The doctors were absolutely amazed, not so much from a physical perspective, but by his self-belief and his attitude around that burning desire. Here's a few pictures of his recovery phase over those next few months. And he was pushing himself harder than anyone they'd ever seen before in the physio treatment, to get up, to get out of the hospital, etc., etc. He'd recovered to such an extent by Christmas. Obviously it's very cold in Switzerland. The doctors suggested that he go on holiday somewhere warm to help with his recuperation. So he joined our family holiday in Phuket in Thailand, which is always a great fun at Christmas. And I distinctly remember one afternoon, now John at this time, he still couldn't walk properly. He was limping profoundly, he couldn't talk properly, he was drinking through a straw. But one lunchtime he announced he was going to take himself off on a run. And I thought my sister was absolutely crazy. He'd never been to Phuket before, didn't know where he was going to go. And by early evening he still hadn't returned. We were getting quite worried. He eventually got back to my sister's hotel at midnight, all cut up, bruised, covered in dirt. And I heard the full story the following morning. He'd basically got lost in the jungle, fallen over numerous times. It got dark, and he'd managed to stumble across a road and got rescued by a tuk-tuk driver who just happened to be passing. But again, John the next morning went straight onto his Facebook account and recounted this as a tremendous adventure. So perhaps I shouldn't have been so surprised when in April this year I saw this on his Facebook post. 15th of April, John had just completed the Vienna half marathon, 1 hour 56. Most of us sitting here today would think that's a fantastic time, 1 hour 56. But I was in absolute awe 1 week later when I saw this. "11 months after having contracted Guillain-Barré syndrome, when all of the specialists had told him it would be impossible, told us it would be impossible, John had achieved his burning desire to run a marathon again. He'd achieved his wildly important goal.